Hey everyone, what's happening? Welcome to Maych TV. My word, what a week it has been. Genuinely thought last week I was going to be looking ahead to, crunch clashes in the battle for top four, and instead we found ourselves in a battle for the sole and immediate future of football and the football clubs that we love. Yeah, crazy. When you consider actually, my time on YouTube was born amidst Liverpool ownership protests. There's a nice symbolism that having just done a decade of it, the next decade should begin the way that the first one started. But yeah, that's another chat for another day. Obviously, what we've seen, the Super League is dead. It is over for now. It is buried for now. Is it in a shallow grave, or is it buried 6 feet under forever and ever and ever? I guess we'll find out. But what you've seen, of course, is owners and people involved with the football clubs issuing a variety of responses and apologies in a variety of different ways. Liverpool's principal owner, John W. Henry, took to Liverpool's social channels and beyond with a video apology. And I've said this in a number of places, and I've done an in-depth reaction to this, which of course you can check out on the Redmen TV YouTube channel, in which I believe he gets the words largely right. I think he gets the tone largely right. I think it was what was needed to be happen. He's thrown himself in front of this, in front of a disaster he claims he created alone. Whether that's true or not, I mean, that's up for people to decide whether they take his words at face value or not, of course. But I think it's an interesting conversation to have, and it's one we'll pick up on in this video, and we'll talk a little bit about what happens now. A big battle's been won by fans, by the players, by the managers. But does anything really change, or have we just fought for to maintain the status quo? Now, I have to point this out, I have an obligation for at least one video every week to be sponsored. That ongoing sponsorship is with the Super 6 YouTube channel. It is a show where myself and Chris Page feature on their Whole DL show every week and have some generally light-hearted debate and fun and banter with fellow football fans. Obviously, we've all kind of had to put aside the banter this week, so the show this week is about the Super League and the potential negative impacts. Chris spoke brilliantly on that. Here's a little clip.
We all want our club to be well run. We want them to pay the best money. We want them to have the best players. We created this monster ourselves. The leagues, the clubs, and you look at the Bosman rule and it's given player power. The clubs want their power back. The UEFA have got power. The players have got power. The clubs want it back. This is what they're doing. We don't need UEFA to go, we're the big boys. Look at the media industry right now. You've got Twitter followers being more important than actual journalism.
Yeah, not your usual stuff, of course, but yeah, please do go over there if you're interested. Drop a like and leave a comment and thoughts and reactions on all that kind of stuff. Yeah, Chris, as ever, doing a brilliant job of representing Redmen TV and being a wonderful guy in a general sense as well. And I'm saying that at a reasonably hushed tone because he's literally sat on the other side of this wall, and I don't want him to blush. He's got work to do. But yeah, please do it. And you say, Mitch said, yeah, that helps me immeasurably. Anyway, look, let's crack on with it. The apology has been issued. My general thoughts on it is that I think their approach in the aftermath was kind of the right way of doing it. I don't think a written apology would have done it. It would have felt like empty words. I think for John W. Henry to do it and come and fall on the sword for it, I think that was the right way. You look at how other clubs have handled this. I think Man United, basically, the Glazers have effectively, they're in like a getaway wagon. And we've seen it before, we're like, we need to lose some weight. What can we do to get away from the baying crowds here? And they've just thrown Ed Woodward. Into the baying bloody masses. Which I think was an easy thing for them to do because I don't think he was particularly well liked at United anyway by United fans, and he was, let's face it, fairly incompetent at his job of managing what should be the top club in the country given everything they've got around them, but they're very much not. So yeah, we've seen that, and I think John Henry, it was the PR-wise, I think it was the sensible move to make because he's already quite withdrawn from Liverpool. He's already seen as like he's not there. He's not the face. We've had Peter Moore be, the CEO be the sort of celebrity CEO for Liverpool, facing it up. Jurgen Klopp is the face of Liverpool in terms of Liverpool Football Club, and there's a variety of people who head up various departments who are far more known and associated directly. Henry is still far more known as, yes, he's known as the owner. People think of him more than they think of Werner or Gordon. So, yeah, as far as a figurehead to take the fall, he was the right person to do that because people know who he is, but also he's able to kind of step back and pull any blame and criticism away from the people who are required to make sure that the football club can still continue to run. And whether you see that as like that's a really deeply cynical negative move, or whether you see that as a piece of genius PR, or whether you see it as purely honest, is, I mean, we can't fully know the truth at the moment. But I would say, and to my point on this, I remain a more than a healthy skeptic on this, because there's just too many dodgy moments. You know, there's too many good people around for this to have not been a pernicious act on Liverpool's owners, as far as I'm concerned. So look, what happens now? So, you know, there's interesting to see today. Well, as I'm recording this, Manchester United fans have been protesting against the Glazers, and that's one of the key things I think is going to be interesting to see in the coming days, weeks, and months. What will be the response from Liverpool fans as a whole? Will we be able to continue to speak with one voice as a fan base and as football fans across the pyramid as well? Because that was the beauty and that was the power in the protest against the Super League. We saw what can happen and how quickly we can enact change if we all pull together in the same direction. Now, we've long talked about this. You know, we had the, you know, we tried this when we tried to do things like Social Club in the early days of Ball Street, where we got fan channels together because we thought we can really unify fan voices. And it's very difficult to do that, and that's why these things are very hard. And it was great to have a unifying cause and case to kind of get behind, where it didn't matter where you were from, how far you lived from the ground, what team you supported. There was a clear bad guy in this. And I think there's a lot of clear bad guys in football, but sometimes we're just not prepared to recognise them, because we are often distracted by the other issues, by just the football, by the players, by transfers, by all these things. My hope is that we've seen football for the sham that it is, and that if we want football to be what we hope it is, Florentino Perez went out and burst the bubble. The Super League exposed the bubble, finally, the bubble that we all kind of knew. You know, that you've got these super elite, super rich people who run stuff, and for them it's money most importantly above everything else. And then Florentino Perez not only held the bubble up in front of everyone, he went and then just popped in and went, yeah, everyone's a bit crap apart from us. We're the most important people. And look, whether you do that in your heart of hearts or whatever, or believed it, it's still shit, and it shouldn't be the case. And making that more so the case is not the answer for football. Making football more accessible to people, trying to create some sort of unity across the board, is certainly a better way. I mean, we're holding up the German model. German model's not perfect, by the way, but it's certainly a hell of a lot better than it is. You know, you've got fan bases, fan groups across all the clubs united. Ticket prices, they try to put ticket prices up, they all get together and go, no, our sport, not going to happen. And that's obviously aided by the 50+1 model, where you've got fan ownership and representation on boards of all the football clubs, or most of the football clubs. And we're seeing a movement. You've got the Reclaim the Game movement, which is being led by Steve Rotherham and Andy Burnham, obviously two key political figures in Manchester and in Liverpool, as mayors, metro mayors, or whatever, of both of those regions. They're things that we can do moving forward. We can make sure that we keep our collectivism in this, because Super League is gone. We want to make sure it doesn't come back, but we also got to remember that, as I talked about earlier, the return, keep maintaining the status quo is not here. And that's why things like the protest t-shirts of Leeds that have got Champions League slogans, things when you got Heineken doing clever memes, these are all people who don't want the status quo to change, but they found a way to kind of make themselves look like they were the good guys in this battle. Let me make this perfectly clear: UEFA and FIFA are not the good guys. They are two of the most corrupt organisations going. And then you've got the English FA and the Premier League. These are not people who are in it for you and me and us and football fans in general. They see us as cash cows and nothing more. They, you know, increasingly they're understanding our value to the product, but that's the terms in which they discuss us, value to the product. They don't see us as the lifeblood. They don't see us as the raw beating heart and emotion of the beautiful game, of the people's game. They see us as ways in which they can be exploited to maximise that, so they can buy their extra yachts and entice extra sponsorships. And listen, hey, capitalism in it. Now, there's not necessarily like capitalism is an ultimately flawed model, but it's an ultimately very exploitable model, and it leads to lots and lots of greed and corruption, which again is a fire that feeds itself, unfortunately, and it burns lots of the people around it to make it a reality. So what, again, I'm kind of scared around it. This is a bit of a soapbox platform, and I'm free-forming this a little bit, to be perfectly honest. But what needs to happen now is, I think we all need to take a breath. Look, I haven't stopped talking now for 4 days, and that's generally me anyway, to be honest. But in terms of this, it's been an intense, a very, very intense, emotionally, physically, psychologically intense few days. It was brilliant that the battle was won to kill off the Super League, but we've got to turn our attention now to the Champions League. So, you know, the idea that we're promoting the Champions League, the Champions League away for a good, guys. No, no, no. Look at the state of the Champions League. Now, we like the idea of competition, and I'm not sure you're going to go back to a world of pre-Champions League era where it's only the champions who qualify, and you've got this raw, pure, short competition where it's like 4 or 5 rounds, if that, two-legged ties, instant knockouts, loads of drama, loads of action, because I don't know. I don't know that genie can be put back in the box. But the idea of adding 100 Champions League games a season, the idea that if you want to get to a final of the revamped competition from 2023-24, you'll have played 17 games of football in an already congested period. And then what happens when you win it? You'd automatically enter into a Club World Cup created by FIFA, which no longer will be played as a short tournament at Christmas in Qatar. That's going to be getting played around the world post-season as a 24-team tournament, so your season's going to carry on. And then, so the question is, what happens to international football? Well, international football's not going to go anywhere. You know, we managed to get the Euros delayed a year because of the pandemic, and they then said, well, we're not moving that again, and that's going to cause its own set of problems in terms of player health and finances and the transmission of COVID as we get to this summer, of course. And then you've got a World Cup that's been moved to winter. I mean, again, examples of mad rabid corruption and the quest for money being the driving factor behind all these things, not necessarily the quality of the sport. And we've got to I guess we decide what we want. What do we want from football? Do we want our teams to be playing 5 days a week? Because if we do, there's going to be a knock-on impact to that. There's going to be things like there's going to need to be bigger sponsorships, and there's going to need to be more greed, because there needs to be more incomes to have bigger squads and pay players, bigger wages, etc., etc., etc. And this just continues on down this path. Do we want to have a higher quality of football? Because if we want a higher quality of football, then the footballers are going to need to play less games. How we work that, I'm not entirely certain, but that's definitely a factor to consider. What I'm saying to this is there's reforms needed. There needs to be a greater sharing of wealth across the pyramid. There needs to be a greater investment in youth football, and there needs to be greater accessibility to football for young fans as well. Because Florentino Perez can talk, or to his heart's content, about how fans have lost interest, but how are you meant to do it? Look, I've been working in and around Liverpool. I live in Liverpool. I know lots of people who go to the game. I have probably a better access to tickets, not because I get special treatment, just because I know more people who go to the game, who I might be able to say to, if you're not going, do you mind if I have your ticket? How do I take my son to a game of football? I don't know how to do that. I would really struggle to be able to do that, and I'm you know, slightly better connected than most, and again, not to the club, but just in a general centre in and around the city. So you know, and these things, what's accessible? Video games are accessible, so no wonder their attention spans are turned towards it. It's easier to play FIFA and it's easier to play Fortnite than it is to go and watch your local football team, and that's something that desperately needs to change. So these reforms are wide-ranging. These are all key issues we need to identify and shut racism out of football game, homophobia, sexism, all nonsense things. We've seen loads of this in recent years. There's tons of issues, and I think what we need to do is create almost a plan. A pseudo business plan, a 5-year plan of reforms for football. What are the key issues that need to be changed in football? And what we need to do is go at them one at a time, systematically. What was the big, most important one, the press one? Stop the Super League. What's next? Let's force UEFA to change their plans and look at what they're doing in terms of the Champions League and Europa League and Conference League and these kind of things. What happens to the domestic cups? How important are the domestic cups to you? Because even without the Super League, I can't see a world where the domestic cups have got any value moving forward. If you've got extra Champions League games, there's simply not a chance you're putting a full-strength team out in the FA Cup, you know, and you're definitely not doing it in the League Cup. Do we care about those? Well, yes, if you're a league team, if you're in the Championship or below, you need those competitions. So how do we safeguard those competitions? There needs to be a holistic whole view of football and how it all ties into each other. So let's get together. Let's get together with the Football Supporters Association. If you're a fan of a particular football team, join your supporters union, join your fan groups. You know, I've joined Spirit of Shankly. I've stayed clear of it because I wasn't, you know, I always wanted to kind of, you know, maintain some sort of outside perspective on it, which I believe now that I can. But also, if you want to have a voice and you want to be up to date with these things, then it's important for each club to have one solid set of representation. And right now, it's Spirit of Shankly for Liverpool. There's no point in wasting our time setting up anything else. Let's get involved with that if you want to do that, which is something that I've done. And then let's see if we can start changing football to be the sport that we all hope it is, the football that it's sold as, the football that it's marketed at. Let's actually live up to the marketing ideals and make football the best that it can possibly be moving forward. What would you like to see? What are your key 5 reforms for football? Let me know in the comments section underneath. And yeah, let's keep the dialogue going. Let's not take our eyes off this. Let's not get swallowed up by just getting back to being fans of football. And look, if you want to do that, do that. Because that's all it is. For a lot of football fans, that's all it is. But if you feel impassioned by this, if this has lit a fire in you, it's it. I feel so, I'm so tired, I'm so exhausted, and yet I feel so alive and so invigorated with passion for this. And if you feel the same way as that, then please talk to me in the comments, and do check out the bits and pieces as well. Yeah, do go and support the whole DL show over there. Give Chris some love over there. Some brilliant words from him on this stuff. And you want more from me on all this, then there's tons for free available now on the Redmen TV YouTube channel, and there'll be more moving forward on our streaming service, redmentv.com as well. But listen, have an amazing weekend. Hope we can get back to it, enjoying a little bit of the football in isolation before we get involved in some of the bigger fights again. But yeah, hopefully we can change football for the better. And if this week has done nothing, hopefully that's a positive that we can take out what could have been the biggest negative that football's ever seen. Anyway, have a boss day, have a boss weekend, have a boss life.